Hey everyone, welcome to the Healthy Brain Podcast. Today, the episode is all about how to use supercompensation for training the brain in order to handle stress better. It's a long title, but welcome for all of you athletes, especially out there. You may have heard of this principle of supercompensation, and don't worry, if you're not an athlete, you don't need to be an athlete to get to really use this supercompensation principle to improve your brain health. I wanted to share in this episode my take and approach to brain health using this principle of supercompensation. First off, also, if you find this episode helpful, hopefully you do, please share it with a friend and write a review. I'd really appreciate it. So what is the principle of supercompensation? It's used in physical training, and it's a sports science theory stating that completing a more intense training phase followed by a recovery period leads to better physiological adaptation, meaning you get stronger, you get faster. So this is a common principle where you do an intense training for maybe 1 or 2 sessions, or even just 1 session, and then you have a recovery period. And they've done a lot of studies on this cycling back and forth, switching back and forth from training to recovery. So we can use the same principle for brain health. We know that when we are in chronic stress, it results in cognitive decline and physical decline. Chronic stress is when you are constantly in a stressed out mode. Your sympathetic nervous system is highly active, and your parasympathetic nervous system, the one is the rest and digest, is not as active. So you're just always in this heightened state in the nervous system. So our nervous system is really meant to switch in and out, back and forth between each nervous system pathway. So think of stress as being the on switch. So the on switch being the sympathetic nervous system, and the off switch is the recovery or the parasympathetic nervous system phase or pathway. Sometimes we can be in the constant on switch mode, the stress mode, and sometimes we can be in the middle zone, the gray zone, where you're not really on and you're not really off. Some examples of this middle zone is when you're doing more than one thing at one time, so multitasking. Tabs are open on the computer, you're frequently distractive. And also it can be inactive recovery. So when you're in the middle zone, you may think that you're recovering, but it's an inactive recovery activity. And I'm going to share the difference between true recovery, which is active recovery, and inactive or false recovery, where we think we are recovering, but we're really not. So there's really three stages you can be in this this switch. So think of the light switch. The on is where you're in stress mode, and the middle, it's when it could be even a dimmer switch, when you're dimmed a little bit halfway, and then all the way off is when you are in that recovery mode. And I'm sure many of you already know what stresses you out. That's an easy thing to think of. What are your stressful activities? We can all think of them. But the middle zone and the inactive recovery, you may have to really think about that, because it's draining your battery. It's draining your brain energy. So how can we work on switching modes to the off switch? And more importantly, how can we create flexibility to go from the on switch to the off switch to the on switch throughout the day if needed, because it is natural. We have to have this flexibility. I'm not saying at all you should be on the off switch and just be vegged out mode all the time. Our as human beings and our brain function and physically, it benefits us. Remember this supercompensation. It benefits us to put stress on the body, stress on the brain to a certain level, and then to back off and allow the recovery period. And I really believe that in this day and age with our digital, everything is at our fingertips. If we go from our computer, we go to our phone, we go to our iPad, we go to the TV. It's a lot of consuming, and we think that, and this is one, I'll say personally, what happened recently is I've been feeling a lot of brain drain and increased cognitive load. When I want to work on something, I feel drained. Even with this podcast, I wrote it last week, but every time I would just think, oh, I don't really feel like doing it now. And like coming up with a lot of excuses and just feeling drained, like it's going to take more energy out from what I want from my recovery. So I looked at how I was spending my downtime during the day and why I felt like I was so drained. And I found that I was predominantly doing inactive recovery. So no wonder I didn't feel rested and rejuvenated. And I'll tell you what my inactive recovery, what I thought was recovery. I'm sitting in a comfortable chair. I'm going to watch a little YouTube. I'm going to scroll through my social media. And not saying that that's not good, but I was doing it too much and thinking in my mind, well, this is really helping me to recover, versus it's really considered inactive recovery. So there's other things that I've been implementing to really help me truly do a true recovery, which is active recovery. So let's go on. So poor recovery, we know that poor recovery will not support supercompensation. When we use the term active recovery, it's for true recovery activities, and those true recovery activities will support supercompensation. Here are the differences. So you may be like active, inactive recovery. What's the difference? The difference is active recovery or true recovery activities result in low cognitive load. It means it doesn't take a lot of brain energy. It's low stimulation. So some examples of these activities are stretching, mindfulness activities like mindful walking, mindful listening, MFR, so myofascial release, going out in nature, getting a massage, breath work, yin yoga. Those are active recovery. So if you're an athlete, think of applying these activities for true recovery, true active recovery. Now, what is inactive recovery? So some of these may surprise you. You will know that it's inactive recovery when you feel afterwards that you don't have a lot of energy. It requires higher cognitive load. It's more stimulating. It involves focused attention. So these activities don't really let your brain and body check out for a while. They are involving more attention than what's needed. These examples are social media scrolling, watching TV or video, gaming, texting, any device use, news, listening to the news, certain conversations, even reading, depending on what you're reading, could be a form of inactive recovery. And like I said, you'll know if an activity is supportive for you, if you feel like you have more energy versus if you have lower energy, then that is a poor recovery activity or inactive recovery. And just keep note of it, of what is draining you. And there is this pull, this dopamine pull. I'm not going to talk about it much, but the reason we like the social media and scrolling and the device use is it gives us a little spike in dopamine, and it keeps us coming back where we don't even realize it. It's like reaching for the phone. So there are some things, you could do a digital detox, but in it, as far as these recovery activities, just think of what you are doing throughout the day, and are you giving your body and your brain time to recover? Because we want this recovery. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be an hour of recovery. Hey, it would be nice. But if you can do, now let's talk about like how many times should you do an active recovery, a true recovery activity per week? Now, ideally, it's every day. That would mean like you're mixing it up, where you would have maybe a meditation one day, breath work the other day. Although meditation, I do recommend every day, but let's just use it as that example. It could be breath work one day. The next day you're doing myofascial release. The next day you're going to do a nice walk out in nature. The next day it's going to be yin yoga. And these, again, don't have to be long. You can do 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. But to start off with, your brain, if you truly did say, I'm going to do it every day this week, some active recovery, your brain will revolt, because it doesn't want to do anything that's out of your routine. So we want to ease you into it. And as I've mentioned before, a little brain hack on how we can get more active recovery consistency is to start small, and to start with the frequency being lower. So that's one time a week. Let's say you work out 5 days a week. Maybe you're working out at the gym, training at the gym or in a sport. Aim to start with one time in a week. And then the next week, do 2 to 3 times in a week. And then you can slowly add more. But maybe for you, 2 to 3 times a week is enough, of course, in your schedule to definitely put it into place. I have a couple of yoga classes on my YouTube channel, so you can check those out. There's actually one, Yoga Nidra, is an active recovery where you're lying there listening to my voice guide you through sort of a body scan. Yoga Nidra is very, very good for recovery. I'll be sharing more about Yoga Nidra. I have done an episode a couple months ago. You can check that out, but I'll be sharing more in the upcoming weeks as well. I'm really all about this recovery. I love it. I love to implement it through the day. And actually, my best time, I say during the day, I like to do it in the evening. A nice yin yoga or a nice breath work, stretching, nothing too intense. And breath work, it's not the quick breath. It's going to be just a gentle breath cycle. You don't want to do anything too stimulating. In my coaching program, I work with people to create their own recovery plan. And if you are interested in getting more information, or even just to have a free coaching call, it's invaluable, because we talk about your goals and how coaching can help you achieve your health and life goals. Then I highly suggest you sign up for a coaching call. It will be very valuable for you. I hope it will. I know that a lot of people say it's super valuable. And if you found this episode helpful, like I said, please share it with a friend, write a review. When you're looking at this supercompensation then for the brain, if you have a job where you're, or even if you're a busy parent taking care of kids, and it doesn't even matter what age the kids are, it can be any age, when you are helping other people and you're having to be in stressful situations, you know your stress, it's there, then you want to have periods of this active recovery, because your brain will adapt then. Your brain will adapt in order to supercompensate, because it finally has time to rest and digest, active recovery. And that's why sleep is that's another thing, active recovery. Sleep is huge for our recovery, good quality sleep. So when you look at being able to float in and out of this stress, the on and off switch, you can develop this flexibility by intentionally practicing these active recovery activities. And I say that you have to be intentional, because if you're in the same habit loop of working and doing and living life, and you're like, okay, I'll do it next week, I'll do the active recovery next week, or I'll do it next Monday, next month, when the kids go back to school, when I'm less busy, you're always going to have the stress. It will just come in different forms. Get used to practicing the active recovery activities now, and again, make them small. Then you're practicing. It's like these little bits of active recovery that will help you then float in and out of stress, that you're able to turn to the off switch when you're in a chronic or a stressful situation. You can then apply some of these strategies and techniques that you practice in active recovery. So this is a really interesting approach. If you look at it like this is really just part of your brain health, is to make sure you're recovering. We think that we should be doing more. And I do work with people when I'm working with cognitive rehab. We work on memory tasks and strategies and drills to stimulate their brain, like brain games. All those are really great. We want to have that. It's part of the brain health, the pillars of the brain health. But there is a part of stress management and recovery that's needed, that we know that as our brain is in chronic stress, it shrinks. We don't want this. We want our brain to be nice and plump. So keep those in mind. I hope you found this helpful, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.